when I least expected it, he seems to be like the old sheriff, with another light sentence here. What's up with that, Roger? Because you just missed a great opportunity to send a powerful message to every NFL player. This will not be tolerated, even if she does strike first, even if she does initiate the contact, and even if the player involved is a Ray Rice, who clearly, as you well know, Stephen A., has been nothing but a model citizen, and even if his then-fiancée immediately stood by his side and apologized profusely, went to the hearing with Goodell and apologized and took some responsibility and blame for her role in starting this altercation. It just doesn't matter, because these players have been taught again and again and again through symposiums. You just cannot, even if she initiates, you must try to restrain yourself. And if that's not possible, you've got to flee the scene. You've got to turn and get out of the situation as fast as you can. Now, obviously, Stephen A., we've seen a couple of incidents in the past in which she was armed with either a knife or a gun. Okay, obviously there's going to be an occasional extenuating circumstance where the rules are going to change. But in this case, as our Chris Mortensen initially reported from what he heard from what those who had seen the internal tape of what happened inside the elevator had told him, she did initiate some sort of physical contact. But Ray struck back, struck her, according to what Chris heard, in the face. Then as she fell, she hit her head, and as we all know, was knocked unconscious, and we saw the end of that as he dragged her out of the elevator. I don't care. Cannot hit back, cannot strike back, cannot strike her in the face. I'm sorry, that's at least an 8-game message that had to be sent, that this will no longer be tolerated, and I'm a little ashamed of the commissioner, and I'm very, very disappointed in him.
Skip, Kerry, you know, people get on television and they get scared to broach some of these subjects because it gets a bit dicey and risque. But this is First Take. That's not how Skip and I roll, along with yourself, and I'm not going to change that now. You say you don't care whether she hit or not. Let me make everybody uncomfortable by telling you I do care. But let me tell you why. It's not about him then. It's about you. And here's what I mean by that. We keep talking about the guys. We know you have no business putting your hands on a woman. I don't know how many times I got to reiterate that. But as a man who was raised by women, see, I know what I'm going to do if somebody touches a female member of my family. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my boys are going to do. I know what I'm going to have to remind myself that I work for the Worldwide Leader. I'm going to have to get law enforcement officials involved because of what I'm going to be tempted to do. But what I've tried to employ the female members of my family, some of who you all met and talked to and what have you, is that, again, and this is what I've done this all my life, let's make sure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions. Because if I come, or somebody else come, whether it's law enforcement officials, your brother, or the fellas that you know, if we come after somebody has put their hands on you, it doesn't negate the fact that they already put their hands on you. So let's try to make sure that we can do our part in making sure that that doesn't happen. Now you got some dudes that are just horrible and they're going to do it anyway. And there's never an excuse to put your hands on a woman. But domestic violence or you know, or whatever the case may be, with men putting their hands on women is obviously a very real issue in our society. And I think that just talking about what guys shouldn't do, we got to also make sure that you can do your part to do whatever you can do to try to make sure it doesn't happen. We know they're wrong. We know they're criminal. We know they probably deserve to be in jail. In Ray Rice's case, he probably deserves more than the 2-game suspension, which we both acknowledge. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that we learn as much as we can about elements of provocation. Not that there's real provocation, but the elements of provocation. You got to make sure that you address it, because what we've got to do is do what we can to try to prevent the situation from happening in any way. And I don't think that's broached enough. That's all I'm saying. No point of blame is
You're saying no violence, period.
Period.
In the discussion.
Period.
No one should be.
Period.
Okay.
So, Stephen A.
Yes.
Stephen A. I'm glad we're having this conversation. So you're with me. No matter what happens, the man cannot get back.
Oh, no, I've always said that.
Is that fair?
I've always said that.
Okay.
That's beyond
more than fair.
I've never. There is no human being alive that can ever sit there and say that I've ever said I would ever condone something like that. A matter of fact, you know, my personal experiences in my life, there have been times in my past where family members had problems. And obviously the solution was the solution. You have to deal with those people that think they can put their hands on a woman.
So let's walk it back from yesterday. So now today, you've let it absorb, and you do agree 2 games is too light. That's the wrong message.
It's the wrong message. Again, we don't know all the details, but we have it in many instances when the NFL has come down heavier. Okay. So why couldn't you do that here?
Yeah, I agree with you. Wrong message. 2 games entirely too light. Stephen A. and Skip, let's take a break. Tough topics coming up next. Andrew Wiggins has a